it is January the 9th, which is a pretty significant day in rock history, especially this year because Jimmy Page is 80 years old.
Wow.
Happy birthday, James Patrick Page, you riff monster, ya. Every time I see a photo of him, he's beaming ear to ear. Did you see him at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last month? Turned up and honored Link Ray with the double neck, rocking the little rawhide. That was great.
Yeah, sounded fantastic, looks fantastic. I saw an interview with him recently. He sounds more lucid now than he did, say, maybe 30 years ago. But, I mean, he's improving with age, I think. And you know,
that checks out.
You would know this, but I read somewhere, you always read these things, and you never know if they're true or not, especially surrounding icons like Jimmy Page. There's so much legend out there, myth and reality versus reality, but that he would never use the same sound engineer on a second record. He only used one sound engineer per record. He didn't want him. He wanted to kind of control the whole and produce the whole thing himself, and didn't want to fall into that trap of using the same sound engineer, creating the same sound again, and another album that sounds like the previous album. But I read that and I thought, he had complete control over that band and its sound.
He certainly did. I don't know about that. I mean, I know that there were several guys that were involved on certain levels on more than one album. But as far as who was calling the shots, I remember years ago, someone in the know, a British impresario, if you will, one day looked at me and just said, we were just talking about bands. He goes, look, at the end of the day, The Who is Pete Townsend and Zeppelin is Jimmy Page. All right? That's it. And it actually kind of made sense. It's like, The Who is nothing without Daltrey and Moon and Net Whistle, and Zeppelin is a four-headed monster and all that. But as far as the guy with the vision, crafting, sculpting from day one, Led Zeppelin was absolutely Jimmy's baby. And in fact, the reason there's a lot of reasons Led Zeppelin never reunited after John Bonham's death, but a big part of the reason they never reunited and the reason that Page Plant was destined to only be around for a few years was because of that. Jimmy likes to be totally in control, and that's one thing when you're Jimmy Page of the Yardbirds, a session legend already at the age of, say, 24, 25, and you hire a couple 20-year-olds like Bonzo and Plant. They're happy to have you go, here's what we're going to do. And then they say, okay, and then it works. Then you're Led Zeppelin. When you try to do that with guys in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, like John Paul Jones and Robert, they're like, no, I'm good, thanks. I just like doing my own thing now. I think the coolest thing Led Zeppelin ever did was not get back together. Honestly, their legacy has remained untarnished because of that. The one show they played in 2007 with Jason Bonham, that to their credit, that was enough. I think Jimmy was always pushing to get back in and make something happen with Zeppelin, but I think, and this is purely speculation, he can't be too concerned with how it all shook out because their legacy is right there. I mean, you got the Beatles, the Stones, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. I don't know who else. There's that very short list. They're clearly a Rushmore band. So happy birthday, Jim. 80 years old. Anybody that has a Zeppelin story, anybody that spent time in a Page Plant gig, anything interesting, anything that you want to let us know how much that music means to you, we will happily discuss with you all day. I'm a huge Zeppelin fan. I spent some time with Jimmy Page over the years. My old band, the Black Crowes, we toured with Jimmy playing Zeppelin music, put out a live album of that. It was the most fun experience of my life as a musician. I mean, being in your own band's great. But being in Jimmy Page, having your band be joined by Jimmy to play Led Zeppelin songs was just pure fun. That was sort of like, in my career, that was when you have a dream as a kid and you have this fantasy of what it feels like to be like a big rock star. And then you get there and it doesn't feel like your dream at all. It's very much, oh, this is actually real, and I got to work hard, and I got to get up, and right. I still have headaches and hangovers, and I still got to deal with bandmates when we argue. I mean, it's not all fun and games. That was all fun and games. The one stretch of my career where I was just like, oh, my God, this is the coolest thing ever, was just getting on stage every night and hearing him, he'd look back and say things like, sick again? And I'd go, sure. Let's play Sick Again from Physical Graffiti, Jimmy Page. Yeah, that will be fun. And it always was. And so happy birthday. 80 years old. And, man, I mean, just the king of the riff. And I mean, no disrespect to your buddy Tony Iommi over there, Candace, but for my money,
it's okay.
Pound for pound, Jimmy is the riff master.
Well, you might know this then. What's his What's Jimmy Page's favorite snack? That's what I would like to know.
His favorite snack?
Yeah. Like, what do you think he likes to munch
Boy,
on?
I don't know. I do know that he's a fan of a shrimp cocktail. He does not turn away from a shrimp cocktail. But that's been a while. Like, I haven't played a show with the man in 20-something odd years. Maybe he's moved on to lobster tail. I don't know. But it's probably some sort of crisp, and it's whatever his favorite snack is. It's very British. The man is a proud Union Jack waver. Probably a prawn flavored crisp, or if you will, a shrimp flavored potato chip is what we would call that. It's disgusting by any measure, but I'm sure that would be something he would probably deal with.
Jimmy Page, I can't imagine whether butterflies. I mean, because you had been at it for a while. The Black Crowes had been up there to the moon and back. I mean, was there now Jimmy Page is in there? Or did you find yourself sweating on the old drumsticks there?
Yeah. The first time we ever played with him was at a Black Crow show in '95. He just turned up at a gig. We met him in London. We played the Royal Albert Hall, and he came down. We already knew Robert Plant. We had toured with Plant, and he was our buddy. And then Robert brought Jimmy to see us. And it was funny because that was the first time of several times where I've been somewhere where the two of them were together out in public. And if you see Robert somewhere, there's a little charge in the room. People are like, oh, my God, there's Robert Plant. And then if you see Jimmy out, then people are like, oh, my God, there's Jimmy Page. But if Robert and Jimmy are together anywhere, it's like 2 + 2 = 1 billion. The energy in the room, everyone else freaks out. They're just living their life being, oh, yeah, how you doing? Everyone else goes, there they are. And the first time that happened to us was actually in our dressing room. And the Black Crowes were in the middle of what was about to be a Donnybrook, a interband brawl after a gig, because we just played a great show in London, so why not have a huge band fight? And right as it was about to kick off, the door opened, and Robert goes, hello, boys. And he walks in, and everybody immediately goes on your best behavior because, you don't want to look like a jerk in front of Uncle Bob. And it's like, oh, hey, man. And then he goes, I brought along a friend. And Jimmy walked in, and literally everybody went, it's just, and we're, like you said, we're cool, we're big, you just played the Royal Albert Hall, and everyone just took a gasp, and there was silence for like 3 seconds, and then it was everyone got the be cool, and then we were off and running. And a couple weeks later, he turned up at another gig and sat in for the encore. We're playing the set before the encore, talking with him in the dressing room, and we're all just geeked up. And it was like, hey, man, do you want to sit in for one? He goes, yeah, sure. And then we're like, oh, my God, we actually said yes. And he came out on stage. It was in Paris. And our singer, Chris, said, well, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but Jimmy Page. And he walked out. The roof just blew off the place. And then we just played some blues standards. We played Elmore James, Shake Your Moneymaker.
Oh, yeah.
Something else. Just a couple where he could just jam. Couldn't hear, and nobody could hear anything he was playing. He couldn't hear himself. It was the greatest thing ever. But that was the one time I was truly spooked, because before the first song he plugged in and he's all smiles, everybody's excited, and he turned back to me and gave me the look like, well, count us in. And I just went, oh my God. And I couldn't look him in the eye. I was like, look away. I'll turn into a goat or something if I stared too long. And then I just 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we were off and running. And I was like, oh my God. Whew. It was great. It was exciting. I'm excited just thinking back to it. So happy birthday, Jimmy, for literally, not just because, I had the chance to spend a lot of time with the guy and play with him, but just as a fan, my God, in my world, there's the Beatles, there's bands that I loved as a kid in the 80s, all my punk and new wave stuff, blah, blah, blah. But the tent poles are the Beatles and Zeppelin. So happy birthday, Jim.
Yeah, my God. I wonder what he's doing for his 80th today. I wonder how Jimmy Page spends his 80th birthday. Just a curiosity.
He has a case of prawn crisps, and they were crushed up, and he's taking a bath in prawn crisps.
Wow. Now, there's a lovely image that we can take right on into the break. And Mike Evans' Hollywood Report coming here at 6:30. Hang tight.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Tuesday, January the 9th. James Page of Led Zeppelin turns 80 today. I'm feeling pretty good myself at a spry 58. there's hope for all of us. Who would have thought? Who would have thunk back in the 60s that all these rockers would still be kicking, still be playing, still be doing their thing at these ages? I remember, I was even in like my middle 30s, and I'd see somebody at 55 and go, man, how are they still doing that? Because in my middle 30s, I was still really stupid about how things worked. But anyway, happy birthday, James Page. Thank you for everything. There is a lot of information, I'm sure, happening out in Tinseltown. Let's go to the Mike Evans Hollywood Report, shall we?
Hey, good morning, Minneapolis. Good morning, St. Paul. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Candace. Good morning. Okay, let's get right to it. This report brought to you by our good friends over at Marcus Theaters. Hey, today's Tuesday, special Tuesday. Every Tuesday at Marcus Theaters, any movie, only $6. So here's the deal. So by recording these reports now, a little bit different, but just the same, I'm with you every day, I get to go see things that I usually wouldn't get to see. It's 4 p.m. Monday right now while I'm recording this for you. I'm in Texas. I'm on my way to see the national championship game. I'm picking Michigan right after sending your report in just a few minutes. It's party time. Of course, the game is already over by the time you play this. I just hope I don't have egg on my face, but looking forward to the game, and I'm picking Michigan way ahead. Here we go. Big news. George Clooney's acting career is coming to an end, apparently. So George Clooney's upcoming schedule includes him being executive producer of the movie Buck Rogers. Then he will direct and produce a baseball movie called Calico Joe. Next, George Clooney will produce a drama about young drug dealers called Coronado High. And after that, he is going to produce a biopic called Dangerously Funny. And that's about the Smothers Brothers, a biopic. George Clooney's only acting gig planned over the next 2 years is a comedy called Joe Kelly with Adam Sandler. Looks like George Clooney wants to get away from acting a little bit. More new news. I've seen a lot of concerts in my day. Of course, not as many as Steve, but anyway, I think one of my favorites was Prince at the Long Beach Arena way back, March 1985. One of the all-time best concerts. So I'm really excited and thrilled that there's going to be a Prince Purple Rain Broadway show. Now, I don't know exactly how that's going to work since Prince, of course, isn't around, but just the idea is exciting. And quick music notes. So Jennifer Lopez is dropping her comeback single tomorrow. It's called Can't Get Enough. I've heard it. I've heard enough. I was not impressed.
Oh boy.
Thursday, Ariana Grande drops her new single called Yes and. That's the name of it. I was impressed by that. You know, if Jennifer Lopez's single is a flop, it'll be maybe her last record, and she'll go back to acting 100%. The money she has, I mean, she could retire for that matter. I'm going to the football game. Like I said, the game's already over by the time you play this. I hope I don't have egg on my face. We'll see. Have a great day. Mike Evans, see ya.
The Mike Evans Hollywood Report. There it is.
Lapping it up, this new routine of his, isn't it?
I tell you what, but boy, Mike Evans, that's nice to know he got to the game. The game went, I'll just go ahead and say it. I said it yesterday. Michigan's going to wear them down. It'll be a good game until it's not. 34-13, the Wolverines are your undefeated 15-0 national champions. As a lifelong Michigan fan, and then someone who's trying to look at the game objectively, like I said, that's how I thought it was going to go. But I'm still shocked that it went that way because I'd given up on Michigan ever winning a national title in football. I mean, the last time they won one in '97, they split it with Nebraska, and even then, I was going, Nebraska would beat Michigan by 30. I was like, that's just two undefeated teams, so you got to give it to both of them. But this one's undeniable. They ran the table, they didn't lose a game, and they beat the living snot out of Washington. So, congrats to the Wolverines. Congrats to Jim Harbaugh, a man who I've always been at best lukewarm with. I'm not a Harbaugh fan, but I'm happy that finally, the song Hail to the Victors actually makes sense for the first time in a long time.
Hey, a little something from the game last night.
Hail, hail, Michigan. They are the champions of college football 2023.
Present the national championship trophy to Coach Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. Pull it down! Pull it down! We did that! We did that!
I guess that's all we got out of Jim Harbaugh there at the end. I thought there was a bit more. My apology, but it was a nice moment to see John, his brother, come out and join him on the sideline when he was being super Jim Harbaugh intense, and his brother kind of crept up behind him
and
nice
his parents. You know, their dad, Jack Harbaugh, is a legendary coach at my alma mater, Western Kentucky University. The football team there plays on Harbaugh Field. In fact,
really?
Yeah,
wow.
And Jim was an assistant there for 1 year in the 90s, maybe 2 years. So there was a little connection there. Also, my two, four of the Gorman kids all went to Western Kentucky, but we grew up, we're a Michigan family, so we cheered for them. So it was always it was like, oh, that's a nice little connection. And then if you saw after the game, Harbaugh's parents were also on the field. I saw an interview with Harbaugh's mom last week, and I thought, I just literally give the woman a gold medal. Her husband is a lifelong football coach, an assistant at Michigan for years, and then a head coach in his own right. And football coaches are not, that's all they do. That's all they know. That's all they care about. And then they have two boys, and they're Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh. I'm like, imagine this woman trying to have a conversation with any of the key men in her life. They just look at her, and like when she's talking, all they hear is, defensive lineman gets his footwork crossed up right there. Okay, we've got to make sure that's a chop block. That's a chop block, Mom. I mean, has she ever had a conversation with her husband or either son that didn't involve football? God bless her.
I mean, it must have been just an intense dinner table. She had a Jack, a John, and a Jim. I mean, just look at those personalities. Either she ruled with an iron fist, or she just smiled through it all and just kind of got through it. Of course, the big conversation now, and it always is post, because he did so well in the NFL. Appearing in a Super Bowl against his brother and then jumping to Michigan. But it's really hot, the rumors now, that he'd like to jump back into the NFL. And, of course, there are all sorts of teams that would give him a call. The Falcons and the Commanders are looking for a head coach. There'll be more.
I think if he's going to go, and I think he will go, but then Harbaugh's such a contrarian because all of the dominoes are lined up for him to return to the NFL. He's the kind of guy who'd be like, "Nah, I'm just going to stay here. We'll see what happens." But I think the Chargers would be the place because he needs a real quarter. You got to have the quarterback, and they do have Justin Herbert sitting out there having his career just wasted so far. And I think he's a gamer. You can win with Justin Herbert, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what Harbaugh does. Speaking of football, I've got a little football note. On this day, January 9th, 2005, Randy Moss caught a touchdown at Lambeau Field, and we all know what happened next. He went over and pretended to moon the crowd. If you remember, it was a wild card round, 2004. Vikings, a lot of people said they shouldn't have even been there. They were 8-8 that year, but they upset the Packers 31-17. Fourth quarter touchdown. Moss scores it. He pretends to pull his pants down, and Joe Buck on Fox says, "That's a disgusting act by Randy Moss, and it's unfortunate we had it on our air live." Everybody just clutched their pearls all week long. And then finally, a few days later, word got out. People were saying, no, listen, every time a team bus pulls out of Lambeau Field, their fans moon the opposing bus. There's a reason for that. He's been mooned every time that you leave Lambeau. The fans literally moon their opponents, et cetera, et cetera. And then Chris Collinsworth even said, I heard fans taunting him using racial epithets. It's like, yeah, you're talking about Packers fans. We're worried about them being offended. What isn't totally insane? But the best part of that whole story was afterwards, Randy Moss was fined $10,000. And a reporter said, "Did you write the check yet, Randy?" He said, "No, when you're rich, you don't write checks." The guy said, "Well, if you don't write checks, how do you pay these guys?" And then this is the tattoo if I ever get one. Straight cash, homie.
Yeah.
That's just the best. I love Randy Moss. I mean, I'm sorry. When you're that good and when nobody can do anything with you, I give you a lot of rope. I give you a lot of room to be a jerk.
Yeah,
I love it.
If it had been just a one-off, somebody returning a kickoff and doing it, it wouldn't have been. But Randy Moss, because he beat you, and he beat you so bad, and especially the Packers, each and every time they matched up. Yeah, I mean, all he had to do was, he didn't have to do anything, and they were going to look, but Joe Buck. Shut up, Buck.
That's it. It's Joe has never lived that down, by the way. He actually years later had to say, I'm embarrassed at how much I overreacted, but what do you playoff passion, man, it happens.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Tuesday, January the 9th. It is great to be with you. It is Jimmy Page's 80th birthday. Uncle Tony's under the weather. If you're wondering where Tony is today, we love you. We miss you. Get better, fella. My man caught a bug. It happens. Happens to me 3-4 times a year.
Yeah.
My immune system is literally non-existent.
Well, I really upped my vitamin intake the
Atta girl.
past few months.
Atta girl.
And I do really think it's helping.
Really?
Like, watch me get super sick like tomorrow. But
Yeah, that's like kiss of death right there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Because I know a lot of people that take vitamins. I never took vitamins. And so I just got like a woman's multivitamin and like immunity booster.
Okay.
And,
I need all that. I used to rock King Vitamin as a kid, the breakfast cereal. It was just sugar in a bowl, and there was an elderly guy in a big sash and a crown. So that was where I was getting my vitamins from. Probably didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
These things happen.
I did one of those searches on the internet for it. I thought the same thing last year. I'm going to take a multivitamin. And I did for like 4 days in a row. But I got on the internet and I did the search, best adult male multivitamin for a dude over 50. You know what came in number 2?
What's that?
Flintstones.
Oh, yeah. I believe you.
I mean, they say it's
They're
all
for
in there. It's
kids.
chewable. First of all, when you swallow one of those big horse-sized pill multivitamins, about 70% of it goes right through you. Doesn't get digested. Yeah, most of it gets wasted. But with the chewables, that's why you're supposed to take the gummies. I'm talking about the vitamins. But they said the Flintstone chewable came in number 2, and I didn't have the balls to buy it.
Hey, listen, we are the Flintstones kids, 10 million strong and growing, I believe is how the song went. I got on a multivitamin kick in like the 90s, and about a week in, my face had broken out. So I was like, no, I'm sorry, it's not worth it. And someone said, no, it's just going to help you flush all the toxins. That'll clear up. And I was like, it'll make it clear up faster if I stop taking this multivitamin. So anyway, I probably ought to look back into that by now. I think I'm past the vanity where I'd be worried about what my face looks like. I got the perfect gig to not care about what my face looks like. And of course, as we all know, KQ Morning Show mascot, only because he's there more than Gigi, Chauncey Gorman. Now, look, Gigi's the girl. She's been there longer, but Chauncey's on hand more often. He's in the studio most days. Chauncey is a sickly fella. He's got an immune system that's working overtime and doing a poor job because he's got a lung thing. He's always got snot. He's always sickly or always about to be sickly, if you will. And if you follow me on any social platforms, you'll see Chauncey a lot. I post about him kind of regularly. The average dog owner apparently posts a picture of their dog or mentions them on social media 6 times a week. Now, I'm not anywhere close to that because I don't post things 6 times a week, but I would bet at least one of every 6 posts is Chauncey related. And I don't even think about it. But now that I see this stat, I'm going, oh man, I am kind of obsessed with the guy. 1 out of every 5 pictures in the phone of a dog owner includes their dog. 1 of every 5. Candace, is Gigi in more than 20% of your photos?
I mean, the ones that I post.
Just in your phone. Just go into your phone, open them up.
It's ridiculous. It's
ridiculous.
Only Gigi.
Pretty much.
And
have you ever Zoomed or FaceTimed or Skyped Gigi while you were elsewhere?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
This says 15% of owners have done that. I think it's much higher. I have FaceTimed with Chauncey. It's pointless. It's just for me. He doesn't know. He doesn't even recognize my voice over the phone, but I've certainly tried that.
You have to get one. I think the best, I'm terrible at getting gifts. I'm just not the person. I don't connect with people in that gift realm where, I'll be having a conversation with Maria in July, and then for Christmas, she's like, remember in July when you said this was really important to you? Well, I handmade one. It took me 4 months. I'm like, what? I can't do that, but I did one time. And that is, I got one of those little remote things that when you're traveling a lot, like Maria does, and she has her 2 cats, when you're traveling a lot, she can stay connected with the cats. It's got the video and the whole thing, and it spits out the treats. And she when we were on our vacation in England, I mean, just bang, we hop in the bed at the end of the night, talk about our day a little bit, and there she was on that phone with the cats, and they were purring and rubbing up against it. She'd kick out some treats. She could see what they were doing, and that was a big hero gift. But yeah, she was on that thing nonstop. I'm like, we are in England, maybe put that away and look out the window. Look at that, the Thames right there. Look at that.
Oh, come on. What's a 700-year-old building got on a cat looking for a treat?
Yeah, nothing. Until Annabelle knocked it over. Got a little aggressive with the treats.
11% of dog owners have created a social media account for their dog. I would never do that, but I'll tell you why I would never do that. Because the people that do it so well, I'd feel like I couldn't possibly compete. Because I just think that's like a full-time job. When I've come across, if I'm scrolling Instagram and there'll just be a post on there from, because Instagram, I used to see accounts that I actually follow. And now it's just crap that they changed it. And now I'm like, I'm not following this. Why am I looking at this? Anyway, I'll see somebody and it's like Hannibal and Sam, our two crazy dogs. And then I just go down their whole page and I'm like, oh my God. These are the cutest photos ever. I know it took you 9 hours to get that shot, and you're a weirdo, but I appreciate it in this moment, and I'm not going to compete with that, so it's not going to happen. I do think that there's you mentioned this earlier, Zep. We obsessed over our pets. We feed them treats from England. We take multiple photos we would never share, but we have them in our phone. How about this? A couple in Pittsburgh have shared photos of their dog lately. Because their dog Clayton, it got into something he shouldn't have gotten into. This couple had just gone to the bank, and they had a reason. I don't know what it is, but they needed some cash. They withdrew $4,000 in cash, walked home, set it on the counter. And their golden doodle, their golden doodle's name is Cecil, not Clayton. Cecil walked by and looked up there and saw a big stack of 50s and 100s and thought, I'm feeling kind of peckish. I think I could use a snack. And their dog, Cecil the golden doodle, wolfed down 4 large.
Bad Cecil.
Bad Cecil. Now, the good news is he did throw a good bit of it right back up. But then for the rest, they had to wait for him they had to wait for nature to take its course. The dog wolfed their greenbacks. They had to wait for the dog then to pass the greenbacks. There were a bunch of half-digested bills. They had to wash them and then look for the numbers to put pieces back together. So you had the left corner of this bill is not on the bottom corner of that bill matched up. They worked through this. They had to wash the bills from Cecil's innards, if you will.
I don't know if you guys, everyone stepped in it before, but if I step in dog poop, the shoes are going. You just can't wash that out. It gets into the pores, into the molecular structure. And, I mean, what can you do with those bills? You're not going to – I understand they had withdrawn the $4,000 because they had a contractor doing some work at their home who wanted to be paid in cash. A little under-the-table action. You see what's happening. I mean, I'm a contractor. I like some cash payment, but I'm not taking the poopy dog bills.
No, as it turns out, now the dog did go through $4,000. They got about $3,500 of it back because he threw up a lot of it, and then they were able to piece back some bills. Some of the bills did pass through on, just a whole bill, but again, they had to wash them. I don't know how you wash money, but they figured it out. They had to do it. So ultimately, it cost Cecil went through about he cost them about $500, but they'll never get that time back. They'll never get back that part of the brain that will always look at cash and smell dog poop for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
Hey man, I don't have any cash on me. Do you? No. I don't have cash on me. Thank you very much. That will not happen. And when you think about. People say, well, if you rescue a dog, if you go adopt a dog from the shelter, it only costs like $50 or $70, and then you get the shots. All in with food and bowls and leashes, you can get a dog and you can give it a life, and it'll cost you a couple $100 at the top. And that's true. And then if your dog is like Chauncey and he's got a lung disorder, and then you have antibiotics, and then you've got regular trips to the ER because of pneumonia, and then the time Chauncey ate his sister dog Zelda's pain pills and overdosed and was rushed to the hospital like Brian Jones in the swimming pool. I found Chauncey Gorman under the dining room table with 60 pain pills in his gut.
Oh, I felt bad because Tylenol fell out of my pocket one day at the radio station. So when I tried to dope my dog, I was like, oh, my God, what if he had eaten that Tylenol pill? He wouldn't even batted an eye at that.
No, this is 2 years ago. Zelda was in her final days, as it turned out, and her hips were going, and she was very uncomfortable. And we were already having the conversation of, what do we do with Zelda? It's probably time to say goodbye. But she had been taking a pain pill, and I refilled her prescription, brought it home, and the vet said every time, like, hey, these pills smell amazing. Dogs will wolf them down. You've got to put these somewhere where your dog can't find them. And we had been through this for a few jars, over the course of a year. And so there was one place up in in the kitchen, in a counter, above the toaster oven. You can't possibly get there if you're a dog. Well, I walked into the house, and I'd gone to the grocery store too. So I just had handfuls of bags. I set everything on the kitchen counter, and then I'm putting away the groceries, and there's that jar of pills right there. And then I leave the room for a minute. And then I walk back in. I'm like, I got to put those pills away. And I'm like, where's that jar? Oh, maybe I already did put it away. And I go look at the pill place. They're not there. I walk into the other room, and under the dining room table, Chauncey is just laying there. It had been like 15 minutes, and there's an empty jar right next to his head.
Oh, my God.
And I just went, okay, he probably had a few of these. And then I look, and there's none. 60 pills gone. And I'm going to tell you, man. At least it wasn't $4,000 in cash. I wish it had been, though, because the hospital bill was $5,000 by the time he got home. $5,000, 5 nights overnight in the hospital, and they told us when we got him there, they were like, "This is not probably going to end well." Like we thought it was the end, and he bounced back. Little kidney damage, but the numbers came back eventually. But I mean, I was looking at him going, if this damn dog, oh gosh, as much as it's like we're so aware of him getting a cold and maybe pneumonia, didn't occur to me he was just going to go gobble down a jar of pills. The boy takes it out of us. I tell you. I mean, but you know what? Worth every penny, I guess.
And Zelda's laying there going, hey, where's my pain pill? I'm in a little discomfort here. What's going on? Where are you guys taking Chauncey? Hello.
Yeah, she's like, hey, guys, the hips, the stairs. Remember the hips? Hello.
Oh, man. Well, it's what dogs eat. We've done that before. Maybe we get that going again. What has your dog eaten? But Taylor's Fry, the Australian Shepherd, the Psycho, the Tasmanian Devil, has just ate a terracotta pot. Almost the entire thing. She came in and she's like, did you break my terror? There was a little piece there.
God,
she couldn't find the rest of it. He sat there and just kept crunching and eating. Psycho, what's going on in there? I don't know what's this, because she's gone back to work. She took a long time off, took some time out, was just kind of laying around with the dog when he was a puppy. And now she's back to work and eating a hairbrush. Like $180 worth of makeup that she just bought.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
He's on a roll. Well, going through your dog's poop, that's not cool. But it's like your kid, It's one of those dirty jobs that you have to do if you're going to be a pet owner. And we just accept it, right? But you would never go through someone else, like a human being's stinky area, if you didn't have to. If, say, you were a police officer, there's a job you couldn't pay me enough to do. And normally these dumb criminal kind of things, hiding pills, muling them, as they say.
Sure.
They're a dime a dozen. But this one has some fun audio. A new phrase, I guess I'd never heard will introduce into the lexicon, and that's coming here at 7:30. Hang tight.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show, Tuesday, January the 9th. Bryan Adams, Summer 69. I might have mentioned this before. I saw Bryan Adams in 1999 at a festival in Switzerland. My band was playing. Aerosmith was the headliner, and Bryan Adams went on right before Aerosmith. And I remember seeing that bill, getting to the stadium that day, and then he walked out on stage, and he was playing bass, and he had a guitarist and a drummer, just a 3-piece band with Adams playing bass and singing. And I thought, he's going to lose the crowd. This isn't enough. You got to go on right before Aerosmith. And he went out there and for an hour just played hit after hit after hit after hit. And the entire stadium sang every word to every song. I mean, he's big everywhere, but that day in Switzerland, it was like a Beatles reunion gig. I stood there going, what the hell is happening? I've never seen anything like it. And I kid you not, Aerosmith, and in 99, Aerosmith was still just top of the world rock band. And they came out and people were like, that was exit music for about a third of the crowd. They were there for Bryan Adams, and I was like, that dude has written some songs. It's just that reminder of, oh, yeah, you know what beats a great song? Nothing.
Yeah.
It was just, one of those moments when you just realize, like, oh, I haven't been paying attention to the right things. I completely forgot how awesome all this dude's songs are.
I know. I think I've told the story before on the air that I was drugged to a Bryan Adams. I'm like, Bryan Adams? I mean, I don't know. I only go to the shows that really rock, man.
Yeah.
And, they drugged me to the Bryan Adams show, and I thought, this guy does not complicate it. He writes songs that you sing along with. He gives you the 3 chords and the big backbeat. And, I was one of the people that was beetling out on Bryan Adams singing. I thought, I guess I know the words to all these songs. Mm-hmm. And the guy really lays it down. The Canadian can rock.
I had the same experience actually 10 years before that because it was 1989. And I just remember that it was specifically on my birthday. It was the first time I saw Tom Petty live. And have all the records. You hear the songs on the radio every day. But the first time I saw Petty, I just thought, like, he hasn't. I mean, we were 2 hours in, and I'm like, I've known every word to every song this guy has played, and I don't even think of myself as a Petty fan. Like, he's just so ubiquitous. I didn't think about it. Every now and again, you're surprised at how obvious something is, how obvious someone's greatness is. That was one of those moments for me. And then on the other hand, sometimes you're blown away by just how asinine people can be. And I'm not talking about Tom Petty or Bryan Adams or Aerosmith or any of the aforementioned artists. I'm talking about a guy in Florida. You just mentioned this. Police in Florida have tracked down a man named Andrew Croswell. He's 35 years old, and he was involved in a hit and run last week. He hit a bicyclist, and not just a bicyclist, but a paraplegic who was riding a special bike that allowed him to ride a bike. Now, the victim was not seriously hurt. I mean, not injured on top of his obvious injuries already. The man began the day as a paraplegic and then was run over in a hit and run. But Andrew Croswell, the 35-year-old, was arrested. Police caught up with him. He said, I didn't even realize I hit someone. I thought I had run into a curb.
Oh, nice.
And then in conversation, the police started recognizing telltale signs that maybe Andrew wasn't all there. Maybe he was somewhere else. Maybe he was high as a kite. You know how these things work.
Yeah. Yeah. When you think you hit a curb, but you've hit a paraplegic bicyclist, it might be all hopped up on Goofenthal.
Could be. He finally said, actually, you know what, guys? I do have some drugs on me. I've got it hidden. And he got out of the car, and the cop said, "Where is it?" And his quote was, "Well, it's between my cheeks."
Oh man!
Methamphetamine between the cheeks, and then he got out of the car and tried to jiggle it out while in handcuffs.
No.
These are the words. Yeah, let me jiggle it out. That didn't quite work. So one of the police officers had to free one of his hands so he could himself dig through his backside, as he said, and then the meth came out. So he was charged with leaving the scene of a crash, possession of meth, possession of drug paraphernalia, and also for having a little something they call stink hand.
A little stink hand. And here's a new term we'll introduce you to from the body cam of the deputies.
Is there anything on you, dude? Use your words.
Here's the thing, too. You didn't give it a quick notice. That means you have something. You just don't want to say it. We're going to find it, so you just help us out and just tell us where it's at. Is it in or between the cheeks?
Between your cheeks.
Okay. What kind of underwear are you wearing? So you'd be able to kind of jiggle it out down your leg for us?
Can you pick your butt with your hand? Hey, if we take him to jail, he admitted to having it. We'll let them know that he's got booty dope. Will that be fine?
He got a little booty dope on him.
Booty dope. Now, I've heard people say that booty is dope, or look at that dope booty, but I've never heard of booty dope with booty as the descriptor, the adjective in that. Wow.
Thank God we don't deal with this so often that we come up with fun little terms for it. Like, he's got some booty dope. Let him know when he gets into the jail. Somebody's got to dig that dope out of his booty.
That's a 70s funk song waiting to happen. Ow, get on that booty dope. Boom, boom, down, 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 down. Get on that booty dope. We know the KQ Morning Show we could make a funk record. It was just some of the drops and sound bites from the year. That should be our year retro. Every year, the yearly December retrospective is us writing funk classics around some of the sound drops we use.
So you guys are saying you've never hid anything in there?
I've never hid anything in my
I am
booty.
saying that, yes.
Yeah, 100%.
I most certainly am saying that, Candace.
Well, I mean, it's such a good spot to hide things.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I'm not. In life, both literally and figuratively, going in through the outdoors is not something I pursue. Just like the album. I mean, sorry, on Jimmy Page's 80th birthday, I got to say the album still leaves me kind of cold. But as far as practical applications to real life, no. Outdoor, indoor. Let's not confuse the two.
Yeah, and let's not wait. You walked us into that one, Candace. Like you're very familiar with hiding things in the basement.
Well, I just feel like I might have, but I just don't remember what it was.
Well, then,
you would remember that booty dope.
Not if
He's got booty dope.
What kind of booty dope do you have to hide to forget that you hid booty dope? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
I think the answer is good booty dope. It's got to be good stuff.
It'll come to me.
This happened the booty dope happened in Florida. This is on the heels of over the weekend. I'm sure people probably heard about it, but there was a Bass Pro Shop, the giant outdoor sporting stores that are all over the South. In Alabama, just east of Birmingham, is a town called Leeds, Alabama, the home of Charles Barkley, FYI. A man named George Owens, 42 years old, crashed his car into a pole in the parking lot of a Bass Pro Shop. The store was still open. There were customers in there. He got out of his car, ripped all of his clothes off, ran into the store, and then did a cannonball into the giant aquarium that's in the middle of the store. And then climbed out, walked over, and stood under a waterfall. And there are images of this man doing this online. And the word that comes to mind, first and foremost, it's not drugs. It's not hallucination. It's shrinkage.
Yeah.
my man didn't think about what was going to happen when he jumped into that cold tank, but he did. He was arrested with public lewdness, disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, assault on a police officer. Nothing better than being soaking wet and naked and assaulting a cop. Criminal mischief, reckless endangerment. And he made one mistake, because I guarantee you the man would not have been arrested if, while in midair, while jumping into the Bass Pro Shop aquarium in cannonball form, had he simply screamed, "Roll Tide," all would have been forgiven. And they would have totally said, look, man, the guy's upset about that Michigan loss. We get it. It would have been fine. The key to getting away with anything in Alabama is simply throw a Roll Tide out there. It's like having a fraternal order of police card on your dash. You don't get a parking ticket. You know what I mean?
Probably would put him on a float next year in some parade, Here's this guy's a hero. You know what he did for the Tide? He cannonballed into a Bass Pro Shop tank. The poor Bass. Just going about their day, And then a guy cannonballs in naked and not cool, man.
The Bass Pro Shops, there's one. I've been to a couple of them, and they're just huge. They're the size of a Walmart or something. But there's one in Memphis that is it's in an arena. There used to be the Memphis Grizzlies used to play, and Memphis State University's basketball team. There's an arena right along the Mississippi River that's called the Pyramid. It's a giant pyramid arena that you may remember from the 80s and 90s. It is now a Bass Pro Shop. It's the size. It's literally the size of like the Target Center, and it's a Bass Pro Shop. And it's the only one, if I'm not mistaken, where you can test drive a boat. They have boats for sale, and you can go take one out on the Mississippi River in Memphis. Make sure it's what you're looking for.
Yeah, they're cathedrals. These hunting, my dad just chuckles about it. He's like, when we were hunting, the old man story, here it comes. You had a flannel. You had some maybe flannel-lined jeans. You had the boots. You had the wool socks you put on. And now they have these. Cabela's is another one of these. And I love them. Hey, listen, I'm not riffing on them. I'm not dissing on them. But they are cathedral size, filled with so many lures and clothes. It's $1 trillion industry. But yeah, you go in there, and I've literally gotten lost in these places, and I had to go to a counter and just which was the door I came in. There was the big parking lot, not the medium sized or the small, and they'll oh yeah, you got to go back past all the African trophy mounts, and then just keep heading straight, for about a day or two. And then you're on your way out of here. You
can get lost real.
Tanks.
You can get lost real easy. The guy in Alabama, as a follow-up, when he was arrested for a slew of things, but luckily he was not dressed as a priest or a nun, because in Alabama it is against the law to dress up as a priest or a nun unless you actually are one, and that includes on Halloween.
What? Really? Even
it is against the law in Alabama to dress up as a nun or a priest unless you are a nun or a priest. And that's just an important thing to remember. You're responsible for knowing the laws wherever you go. And in Alabama, man, if you've got that sort of kink where you like to go, my name is Monsignor Gorman. How are you? No, don't do it. Do not. Do that in Alabama if you know it's good for you.
But even if you yell "Roll Tide" while you're in the college,
that's a getaway. But Roll Tide's going to get you out of trouble at any time. But you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have to remember the Roll Tide. It's best just to avoid the whole scenario, I think.
All right, I like it. How about some odd laws? We'll get into that. Some more odd laws here at 8 o'clock. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Tuesday, January the 9th. It is Jimmy Page's 80th birthday. Not the only birthday worth celebrating this time of year. When I got to town a year ago, the first weekend I was in town, I had the pleasure of going to First Avenue to see, at that time, the 16th annual Happy Birthday Janice celebration. And now the 17th annual Happy Birthday Janice is upon us. And Jill Michelson's on the phone to discuss that very event. Jill has been running this thing forever. Jill, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Steve? Great to hear you.
It's great to hear you and great to talk to you. I had a blast last year. As I just mentioned, it was my first week in town. It was the first gig I went to, and it was just outstanding. I expected it to be good. I was really blown away, not just by the singers who were all fantastic, but the musicians, the band members, everybody on that stage, not only talented, but clearly leaning in and really paying respects to the great Janice Joplin. It was awesome.
Thank you so much, Steve. We are, we call ourselves the Janice family. We've been playing this show together, the same group of people, for all 17 years.
Awesome.
So it really is a reunion of sorts for all of us. And what a pleasure to have you last year. What an introduction for you to Minneapolis it was. Here you go. Welcome. Get on the stage and have a night with us. So thanks so much again for doing that.
Oh, of course. No, it was my pleasure. 17 years with all the same folks. That speaks to, I think, what I was talking about, which is there's something about Janice that with every consecutive generation, as people rediscover, she is unique and she still stands alone. What is it to you? What's a simple way to explain, if you can, what is it about Janice Joplin that still reaches new listeners?
I think the thing about Janice is that she didn't care what anybody thought about her. There weren't a lot of women in rock and roll at that time in the 60s, for sure. And on the outside, she was this meek, not super attractive little girl from Texas, but she had this soul inside of her that just exploded on the stage. And she was listening to old blues singers, Bessie Smith, and all of these artists that, most people her age weren't listening to. And she just kind of exploded, like I said, and sang from her soul on stage and really set in motion a track for women in rock and roll that cannot be replicated in my eyes.
Yeah, that's really it. She set that in motion, and as a vocalist, I mean, she's one of the first rock singers, women that what you'd see on lists of greatest singer, and it wouldn't be greatest female singer; it would just be greatest rock singers. As a kid, I remember that being the case for sure. Like, even by the late 70s, which now is just, it's at the time it felt like she'd been gone forever when I was really starting to first listen. But it's just a few years later, she had already sort of gone to that next level where people just took her as a singer. And, over the years, I've also been struck by the musicians that she worked with closely or even peripherally, their thoughts on her, and the people that talk about just what she was like to hang out with. She really was an extraordinary person.
Oh, she absolutely was. There's a video of her at the Monterey Pops Festival when Mama Cass sees her for the first time. And Mama Cass is just shaking her head like, who is this person?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
She just absolutely blew people away, and she didn't even know it. You know what I mean? It's not like she was trying to do that or trying to be a certain way. That's who she was. That's who she was born to be. And I think it's an honor for us to be able to share that with people. It touches people because it's true. It's altruistic. It's from the soul, and it's not a show or an act. That's who she was.
Jill Michelson's with us on the KQ Morning Show. The 17th annual Happy Birthday Janice going down this Saturday, January 13th at the Fitzgerald Theater this year. You can get tickets. You can go to the First Avenue website for tickets and check this out. I remember seeing in an interview with Janice on the Dick Cavett Show for the first time years ago, but the first time I saw that, and that's when I always look back at that as the piece that finally was I fully understand this now, because her vulnerability was so on the surface. She really, to your point, she wasn't acting like a star. She was walking through life just completely, seemingly to me, authentic at a time when people were starting to shy away from that already.
Absolutely. And I think that was part of the thing that made her brilliant, and also maybe part of the thing that was her demon, right? Is that
sure, of course,
she really was this like pure, beautiful, shy soul. And so she said at one point she would go and put herself on. She'd take her stage self out of a box and put it on, and then get on the stage and just do her thing, which, to be able to do that is something that is so special to me. And Zepp's been along for the ride for many, many years too.
Hey, Jill.
Hi, Brian. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah.
But it's such a pleasure to be able to do this. And I think especially this year at the Fitzgerald, it's an all ages show. So I really want people to bring your teenagers, bring your kids, bring these, let's show them what rock and roll is supposed to be, and educate them to a certain extent.
It's a great way to be educated. A good time for sure. Jill, go back to when you first started putting this together. Was this going to just be a one-off, or did you see this as something maybe you could build and do year in and year out?
Yeah. So in 2007, I was lucky enough to play Janice at the Ordway Theater in St. Paul. We did a show actually written by her sister Laura and her guitar player Sam Andrew. They wrote a show called Love Janice, a collection of letters that she wrote home when she was in California and her interviews. So that was a 10-week run at the Ordway, and that kind of changed my life.
Yeah,
I couldn't let her go from there. So
sure,
we decided to do an annual tribute right around her birthday, January 19th, and I can't stop. It's something that we look forward to. It's our favorite night of the year. This group of musicians and singers. I got a lot of super fun guests this year, too, from around town that we like to bring in. And this year we moved it to the Fitzgerald. I think it allows for a more theater-style show with still a lot of ability to boogie down or sit if you want to sit. So that's going to be a kind of a fun move, too. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I totally get you. That explanation makes perfect sense. But I have to think when you're calling other people and saying, hey, do you want to come and sing a Janice song? Everyone goes, oh, absolutely. And then they go, what the hell did I just talk myself into? What have I committed to? That's like saying, oh, do you want to go play Hendrix? I mean, you gotta really take a deep breath if you're going to commit to that.
That's totally true. We have to pick and choose who does what song based on vocal ability,
right?
Including myself as I get older, 17 years. But yeah, it's no small feat. So I've got Katie Hayes and J.C. Smith, both local absolute powerhouse rock star singers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who they've both been with me for over 10 of the years. Katie, I think, has done all 17.
That's awesome.
So I won't let them go. But we're also bringing in Lindsay Matson and Kalia Jackson, these two younger, new female vocalists in town that are going to take on the reins of Janice as well this year. So lots of female rock and roll power.
January 13th at the Fitzgerald, 17th annual Happy Birthday, Janice. Again, when I got here last year, it was one of the right away, everybody at KQ was talking about it. There was a real buzz and a very much, oh, you're going to love this. Can't wait. Everybody here it's something everyone was looking very forward to last year and again this year. I know it will be a great show. I trust anybody listening who's not been there. Go get your tickets because you cannot do better for a Saturday night. That's this Saturday, January 13th at the Fitzgerald. Jill, thank you so much for calling in. I know it's going to be an awesome night.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with KQRS. They've been such a great supporter of me and of all of us. So thank you so much to all of you guys there, too. I really appreciate it.
You got it. All the best, Jill. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Steve. Take care.
Bye. That was, I still remember that very clearly. And Zepp, you were the guy I said, oh, Janice tribute. And I said something like, oh, yeah, there's always those. And you go, no, there's not like this. You were like, no. This is not like a bunch of guys going, hey, let's get something together. You were like, no, this is real. And it truly was. I was at First Ave that night at the back bar after the band started. At some point, we're all standing there, a bunch of folks from KQ. And I was like, holy I can't say what I was about to say. I was like, man, they are getting it. And for me, not just the great singers, but the band too. Tremendous players. It was really, really something. So that's going to be a great night Saturday.
Yeah, I love that it's at the Fitzgerald, too, because it opens it up to a new audience. We started at the Caboose. They started at the Caboose when we were down there first introducing them. And I love the Caboose, great boozy bar. It was perfect for the show and then the First Avenue for a number of years. But to open it up to a different audience, I bring the teenagers out, especially, she said, because they're going to do the same thing Mama Cass did when she saw her at Monterey. The jaw's going to drop. These women channel the passion. Obviously, I don't know what it's like to have seen Janice Joplin perform live, but this has got to be as close as you can get. And it's just such great music and the power of it. You go there to have a good time, going to have a couple of beers. It's tribute season here in Minnesota. We're awfully spoiled with all of our fantastic musicians. This one stands out and above. Happy birthday, Janice, at the Fitzgerald this Saturday. Stoked.
Candace just sent me a photo, and it's from last year's event, and it's backstage because we got up and introduced the band that night, introduced the show, and there's a photo of Candace and I standing there chatting. We're both arms folded, and we're deep in conversation. And Candace just sent this, and she just to show me, and she goes, "What do you think you were telling me that night?" And I remember very specifically what I was saying, and that was when we're in public, don't make eye contact with me. Avert your eyes, please.
Yeah, he doesn't like to be touched on stage either.
Yeah, oh God, no,
on the back, nothing like that.
Well, if you do, just make sure you come at me from the right side. If you come at me from behind and left, there's going to be elbows flying. That's just a thing that's just a me thing. That's a me thing.
Stage Steve, we call him. It's a different Steve. It's Stage Steve.
Hey, by the way, I should mention just because somebody might get online and see this and be a little confused. I'm in Los Angeles today. I haven't mentioned that yet. I'm playing a gig tonight of AC/DC songs in LA with a whole bunch of folks. Bill Burr, the great, at this point you can call him iconic, right? Bill Burr he is as successful and as indelible a comedian as we have. Dean Delray, another great comedian who will be at Acme in March, and we're going to have a lot of fun when he's in town. And then a whole ton of rock musicians. We've done this thing. This is the fourth time, I think, where Dean and Bill get up and do a set of comedy, 20 minutes each or so, and then we just all jam on AC/DC songs. You got Scott Ian from Anthrax. You've got a couple of the guys from Rival Sons. Josh Freese, who just joined Foo Fighters, but is drummed. He's going to play on a song or two. The word on the street, the rumor is that Jack Black is going to come and sing The Jack.
Oh my God!
Now, until he walks in the building,
cool,
I'm not going to confirm. But that's the word. That's the rumor on the street. I'm playing. I'm like the core drummer, but then I'm going to give up the seat to Josh Freese for a tune. Bill Burr will play a couple songs, and then Dave Lombardo is going to get up and play a couple from. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty heavy night of cats all paying tribute to specifically Bon Scott era AC/DC.
I'm gonna need a
Delta
phone
checking flights
call
right now
from Jack Black if he really shows up because he's my hero.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I love him so
we
much.
worked together on School of Rock,
Well, then you better have him give me a call.
And when I say we worked together, what I mean is I did some touch-ups on some audio well after the fact, and I've never met the guy. Actually, I have met him years before that. He came to a Black Crowes gig once. I couldn't have been a friendlier fella. But the School of Rock soundtrack, fun fact, if you watch the movie School of Rock, at the very end of the movie, the last scene is the kids are back at the school and they're jamming on an AC/DC song and everybody takes a solo. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, the drummer takes a drum solo. Oh. And if you watch that, what you're hearing is not what you're seeing because the drum solo had to be re-recorded in post-production by yours truly.
Ah, that a boy. Wow.
And let me tell you something. You try to play a drum solo along to a 12-year-old kid who isn't really a great drummer. By far the hardest session of my life was matching to I had to watch and play along so that it looks exact so that I'm playing what he was playing, but there was just some screw up with the audio and they couldn't use it, so we had to make the drums sound better. And it was a whole day because we had to get it all in one straight take too. It was just not gonna wasn't gonna be cut together. And everyone's like, oh, that must have been easy. And I'm like, no. Playing like a 12-year-old, the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. Trust me.
Screw it up more, Gorman. You're not screwing it up enough. Yeah.
But I'd like to think that I did, in fact, save the picture, as they say. So, you're welcome, everybody that loves School of Rock.
I don't suppose, like the Golden Smog show you did recently, I don't suppose they're going to live stream this sucker tonight, are they?
I don't believe so. You know what? Here's how involved I am in the planning. I don't know. I just hopped on a plane, flew west, and I'm going to play some AC/DC songs. I'll let if they are, I'll let you know. We'll let people. All right. Yeah, I have a feeling I would know if that were happening.
Try and track it down. All right. Well, earlier this morning you brought up some weird law down there in Alabama against the law to dress up as, I think, a priest or a nun.
No time of year. Do not wear a priest or nun get up unless you are, in fact, a priest or a nun in Alabama. It is illegal.
Not even a sexy nun on Halloween. You can't have it. So now we're talking about some of the oddest laws, which includes bans on stink bombs, hand fishing, and also whispering in church. I thought that's what you were supposed to do, whisper in church. We're talking odd laws at 8:30. Hang tight.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show on Jimmy Page's 80th birthday. We just heard Black Dog, which is actually a riff written by bassist John Paul Jones, who also celebrated a birthday just last week. Couple of Capricorns. And in fact, in 2007, when Led Zeppelin played that famous show at the O2 Arena, and then there was rumors flying, and in fact, there were conversations beforehand of maybe we'll go on tour. Maybe Zeppelin will reform with Jason Bonham and do a world stadium tour. Before the gig even happened, Robert Plant was asked about how rehearsals were going, and he said, "You try working with two Capricorns. All business, no fun."
What? I'm a Capricorn, man.
We know.
I guess
I'm all business.
I guess JP and JPJ don't run that way. They were really wanted it to be right. Plant was like, "Let's have a glass of wine and have a laugh. Come on." But hey, whatever. There's stranger reasons bands have failed to reconvene. The astrological sign of two of the band members, just one of the things Plant threw out there at the time. We mentioned earlier in the show, well, we mentioned a lot of things earlier in the show. We mentioned earlier in the show that in the state of Alabama, it is illegal. It is against the law to dress up as a priest or a nun unless you actually happen to be a priest or a nun. I don't know if it's against the law for a priest to dress as a nun or a nun to dress as a priest. I don't know. But I know that you or me or Candace, we can't dress as either. Even on Halloween, it is against the law in Alabama. I don't know why that is. I imagine there was some grifters, some snake oil salesmen back in the day showing up and fleecing the Catholic communities of all their life savings. Something had to be done. I don't know. But I also know this. In Little Rock, Arkansas, so it's not statewide, but in the city of Little Rock, you are not allowed to honk your horn outside of a sandwich shop after 9 p.m.
Okay, all right, hold on.
A taqueria? Go for it. A pizza place? Hook up a PA to your front to your hood and with your horn. We don't care. But a sandwich shop after 9? No, sir.
This got to a state legislature right there. We're going to need to vote on this. It's going to have to be drafted, written, enacted. Big problem there in Arkansas. At some point, people honking the horns outside the sandwich shops after 9 p.m.
I guess, it's just Little Rock. Now, it's just so it wasn't a state thing. It was just the city council had to get involved. But, in Little Rock, apparently, that was a bit of an issue. And you already mentioned this one, Zep. In Delaware, whispering in church is illegal if it disrupts the service. So it's not just whispering in church, because God knows what else. I don't know how else you're supposed to communicate in church. Yeah. But if you disrupt the service from whispering, which leads me to think, well, what if you disrupt the service for talking in full voice? That's not a problem?
What if they catch you snoring? I always fell asleep in church.
I tell you what, man, if you fell asleep with Don Gorman in the pew at Mass, there was hell to pay, my friends. Make no mistake about it. I've seen it. It happened to me. I've seen it happen to my brothers. You're just sitting there, and at some point, you're like, "This pew is so uncomfortable. I have to," just boom. The light switch flips, and suddenly you've got the back of your neck is being pinched in a way you didn't know possible.
You get smacked. You get the back of the head. My dad never went to church. He always got out of church. I mean, he was like, I got to do some things done around the house. So that was a mom thing. When I was a little kid, she'd let us nap on her lap there. It was kind of a sweet thing.
That is a sweet thing.
Until we got a little older, and then she told me to lip sync in church. My mom told me that because I'm such a bad. I'm tone deaf. I can't sing.
Really?
My mom's like, yeah, just move your lips, Brian. You don't have to sing. Like, that's not. They told us in Sunday school to sing loud. Jesus wants to. No, not me, not you, Brian. Just
wow.
Yeah. Right.
Hey man, I think I'm all for honest parenting. You know what I mean? If you can look at your kid and say, literally, you don't need to sing in public, that's true love. She's saving you some future embarrassment.
Yeah, some of these are. Did you know in Minnesota we covered these embarrassing laws in Minnesota once, and I remember that you weren't allowed in Minnesota until after the 1960s. They overturned this law that you were not allowed to drive your motorcycle around not wearing a shirt.
Okay.
You had to be wearing a shirt. Yeah, they didn't want shirtless. I don't know, maybe it was one of those counterculture things in the 60s. They started chopping the motorcycles and driving around with their bare breasts showing, and it was just too much.
Too much.
For a docile Minnesota society back in the day to really handle. Maybe it got the Catholic moms a little whipped up, you know.
I saw something. I can't. Oh, I know what it was. I saw this, and I don't know if it's true on the weird law thing, but in Minnesota, you're not allowed to cross a state line. You can't leave or enter the state with a chicken or a duck on your head. Is that just a joke? I kid you not. I think I've seen that somewhere listed. And I know that in nursing homes you can only play bingo twice a week.
What the heck?
Why? You're in a nursing home. Play it. Go nuts. Play it around the clock.
That actually was stricken in 2015. For years, that was on the books. You can only play twice. I guess you just needed to keep the tension down. The bingo, you get these people whipped up. They're all in a frenzy. You had to keep it twice a week. But and by the way, it was also on that same law. If you were visiting someone in a nursing home, you could not join into the bingo. It was only for residents.
The one that always bugged me in Montana, you can't fish if you're an unmarried woman.
Really?
Yeah, you have better things to be. Don't be out there. That's scandalous. What are you doing out there fishing with men, being single?
You're wasting daylight. You need to be finding a man, not fishing.
I guess so. Gosh,
seems like a good place to find a guy, but.
Candace, were you on a road trip and that got in the way because you were excited to drop a line in a lake somewhere and then you got what happened?
Me, big fisher woman.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how I came across it. My friend who lived there told me that, and I think if you're married, you can fish, but you can only do it on Sundays or something weird like that.
Those guys trying to keep women out of their fishing holes, they don't want to know what you're really doing.
Yeah, you scare some competition boys.
Yeah, they are.
I guarantee you, that started because there was some small town somewhere, and the guys were all talking, and they're like, every time I bring my wife, she outfishes me. And someone else said, I know, she's got the magic touch. And next thing you know, why are they having southern accents in Montana? I don't know. But next thing you know, they're like, well, we got to stop this. We got to put a fork in this. In Indiana, noodling is illegal. That's also known as hillbilly hand fishing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, those videos are awesome.
Ain't no hand fishing in Indiana. Oh, and of course, you're also not allowed to fish with dynamite. That to me, it really should be obvious. It should be a given, but clearly in Indiana, that needed to be entered into the books officially.
Yeah, I get that one because, just a curiosity thing. The big thing is these jumping carp now that are invading now. They're starting to show up in Minnesota and the Mississippi. And I don't know if anyone's seen these jumping carp, but they just leap out of the water several feet into the air. I mean, one guy was knocked out, not in Minnesota. This was down south, but knocked out in his boat. Giant flying carp just, boom, took him right out. And so now the big thing out there, they're out there with 12 gauges on their boats. And as they jump into the air, kind of like the trap and the skeet, they're just boom. These fish to pieces. So,
Owensboro, Kentucky, home of basketball star Rex Chapman and Brady Bunch's Florence Henderson, the pride of Owensboro, Kentucky. There is still a rule in the books. They don't enforce it, but they've never stricken it from the record. Stricken? I don't know. They didn't get rid of it yet. Owensboro, Kentucky will not allow a married woman to buy a hat without her husband's permission.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Now, again, they don't enforce it, but it's still on the books.
Wow.
Hey, will you buy this hat for me? Why? Because you're single and I'm married and I can't buy it.
I just, I'd love to be sitting in. When they're arguing these laws, when they're debating these things.
Well, it's like these are laws, though, probably because something bad happened, right?
Well, sure.
Hey,
well, I mean, there's two other laws I know about in Kentucky that you don't have to ask why. One is you cannot use a reptile for religious purposes because, trust me, they're still handling venomous snakes in churches in Appalachia. Like they're like, you're not supposed to, but they still do it. And the other one is you're not allowed to hunt from a moving vehicle, which that one always cracks me up.
I've seen guys try to do it. Don't do it. It's a bad shot. It's bad hunting. Don't do it.
It's so funny.
Kentucky. I just punched it in. In Kentucky, every citizen is required to take a shower once a year. You're required to, whether you want to or not.
I can think of a few people that were unaware of that as a child. And I'm sure there's plenty of Minnesotans right there going, well, that's not a law here. That kid that I knew a guy who never took a shower. That's just natural.
You bring up Baltimore, Maryland. You're a big O's fan. Here's one from Baltimore. Baltimore, still to this day, illegal to mistreat oysters.
By
Let your
eating
imagination run with, I don't know. Candace, it just says in Baltimore, it is illegal to mistreat oysters. That's 2020. May have been overturned since then, but as of 2020, don't be mistreating an oyster. You know how to treat an oyster.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
it right.
I've taken a couple of shucking classes. No, I'm pretty good at it. So as long as you do it right, they'll be fine. It doesn't hurt them, right?
As long as we're picking on Steve and his gypsy life, how about Michigan? You're a big Michigan fan. It's one you just told us.
The state of my birth, yes.
Yeah. Michigan law states that a wife's hair legally belongs to her husband.
What the heck?
Yeah, she can't. Yeah. He's in charge of the hairdos, the haircuts. You're not going to be going with one of those manly, short, progressive haircuts, one of those burn your bra haircuts. Not in my house.
Oh,
Her
my
hair
God.
belongs to me.
I tell you what, man, there could be few things worse than asking the average dude what his wife should do with her hair. I mean, there's just no getting around that. That is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, even if I ask you, I'm going to do the opposite. So.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah, right.
Gosh.
Not going to get away with that. Not with a Minnesota woman.
You guys are welcome. And when I say you guys, I mean anybody listening. You can catch up with this very show. Steve Gorman and the KQ Morning Show has a podcast. All the interviews we do, we have a good time together. Anywhere you get podcasts, anytime you want, you can track it down and listen at your leisure. The KQ Morning Show podcast, sponsored by our dear friends, Candace.
Devani's Pizza and Hot Hoagies.
Devani's Pizza and Hot Hoagies. Not only are they giving you awesome grub, great pizza, great hoagies, they're bringing you the Morning Show podcast. So thanks to Devani's.
I think we need to amp up this partnership a little bit. Like maybe we can have a hoagie eating contest, or whoever can create the best pizza or hoagie. Wouldn't that be fun, you guys?
That would be fun.
Throw up all over each other.
Yes.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah,
in fact, you know what? I'd go so far as to say if our dear friends at Devani's want to open up a branch in KQ, that'll be great. Just we got extra space. Just bring over the ovens, bring it all over. Just have your own. You know, we could keep them in float. We could keep that place floating. I think enough people here at KQ who want to eat Devani's every single day, all day, every day.
I would. I think. Here we go. A listener contest. Devani's new hot hoagie called the Gorman, and a listener will decide what goes in the Gorman sandwich, the hot hoagie. Maybe something like that. You know, just spitball in here this morning, and I'm so damn hungry.
Yeah, I'm so far ahead of you on that one. I'm just like, man, we really opened up the wrong can of worms. I've got to get something. I've got to eat something soon. So let's get to a break.
All right, let's get to it. Jimmy Page blowing out the 80 candles today. Jimmy Page's birthday. We've been talking about him. We have slapped together in our vast KQ library all of the Jimmy Page riffs from Led Zeppelin 1 right through and through the outdoor. We've slapped them all together. We've got that coming up. We like the KQRS post if you have a Led Zeppelin, a Jimmy Page memory. This one almost escaped me. Paul Taylor watching Jimmy play the double neck with The Firm in 86. I remember what a big deal that was.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Rodgers and Jimmy Page were finally getting together. Share your Jimmy Page, your Led Zeppelin memories, moments with us on the KQRS Facebook post. Or, hell, give us a call, 651-989-ROCK. We'd love to hear from you on the talk and text line this morning. And please, hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
How about a little Led Zeppelin for your morning on Jimmy Page's 80th birthday? The old man and the sea? No, the old man and the old man and the everything. The riff master Jimmy Page turns 80 years old. Man, and just looks great. Anytime I see a picture of him, he's grinning, smiling ear to ear. Awesome since he went, 20 plus years now since he just let the hair go gray and now silver. Man, he looks good, feels good. And Led Zeppelin, you just try to get your arms around how much that music has meant in your life, in all of our lives, our collective experiences. Everybody's got that moment in, whatever, elementary school, middle school, high school, however old you were when it suddenly the light went on and you went, oh my God, Led Zeppelin's amazing. Like, it's not a given necessarily that you're going to embrace it until you do. And then you can't imagine or remember life without Led Zeppelin. So happy birthday, Jim. Very, very well done, sir. I spent some time with Jimmy Page over the years, and most intently in 99 and 2000, my former band, the Black Crowes, we toured with Jimmy, and we were playing mostly Zeppelin music. We played a few Crow songs, a few covers, but for the most part, the shows, we were doing like 2.5 hours a night, and 2 of those hours were solid Led Zeppelin songs. And when the one thing that I think back to, it's not on stage, but like when someone says, "Oh, what was it like touring with Jimmy?" Which I hear a lot. There's always the first thing, the funniest, weirdest moment of that experience. We played the Palace at Auburn Hills in the summer of 2000, and we are walking to the stage. And, we're backstage in the area behind the curtain, and then the house lights go down. And the roar of the crowd, it's pitch black. And then the crew guys have their flashlights, and they're leading us. And we're walking to the back of the stage, and we're going to go up the staircase, stage left, and walk out to the roar, the delirious excitement of 14,000 rock fans. It's still a great moment, no matter how many times you do it. And as we're at the bottom of the stairs, like right as we're walking side by side. The two of us just happened to be walking up that day together. And he looked at me, and the last thing he said before he took that first step up onto the stage, it wasn't, "Have a good show, Steve," or "Let's give it to him tonight, Steve." It wasn't that. He goes, "Oh, the last time I was here, a man tried to kill me on stage." And then turned and walked up the stairs. And I went, "I'm sorry, what?"
There's that little memory.
Yeah, and I walk out, so like I walk out, and like as the lights come up and we're there and the place is going nuts, I'm like, "Wait, huh?" And then he kicks in. We open with Celebration Day, and the whole time the intro's playing, I'm like, "What the hell was that?" And then after the show, I find out Paige Plant had played the Auburn Hills Palace 3 or 4 years earlier, and a guy went at Jimmy with a knife. Like, got to the stage, and he was subdued by security, but he was running towards Paige holding a knife. And Jimmy thought to mention that to me as we were approaching the stage. I was like, "Yeah, I get that's how his brain works." Okay, fair enough.
I wonder if that's the only time that's happened, or it's like, "Oh yeah, it's another place they tried to kill me."
I have a feeling that he's had so many run-ins with so many strange things. I'm surprised that it even made a dent in his consciousness actually by that point.
Yeah. By the way, posted a picture, Jimmy Page, of his 80th birthday. Looks like he's having a lovely brunch over there about this time in England, if that's indeed where he's at. And yeah, he looks fit, fantastic. Beautiful smile, sparkle in his eyes. And then just before that, someone posting "Happy Birthday, Jimmy Page," and the Black Crowes performing the Wonton song. I never know if I'm pronouncing that right. From Physical Graffiti.
Wonton.
The Wonton song. Thank you.
Yeah.
For helping me. Look at you banging away there with not a gray hair on your head.
Oh no, those were the salad days, baby.
Yeah.
Like I said, try to get your arms around how much that music is meant to people all over the planet. The shows with Paige in '99, and we were doing the song "From Presence." That we just heard a little bit of a Nobody's Fault But Mine, that intro. And as we were listening to that, we started playing it like, okay, Nobody's Fault, let's do that. We counted in, we're playing it. And it wasn't gelling. It was, just one of those moments in rehearsal where we stop in the middle of a song. And he goes, "Why did it go there and do that?" And he was a little confused with how we were playing it. And we said, well, we just learned the album arrangement, like as we had agreed. Because when Jimmy played with the Black Crowes, we had 3 guitarists now. So we could actually, on live, Zeppelin just had Jimmy. Like, he never had a second guitarist to back him. So he had to really change how he would approach the songs in order to cover all that ground. And now with 2 other guitarists, we could lay down the layers that he had done in the studio. We could do things that sounded more like the album versions. And it was pretty exciting for him to be able to do that. We were loving it. And so, but Nobody's Fault But Mine, he couldn't figure it out. And so he goes, well, let's just take a listen, because I think you guys are confused about something. And as it turned out, he was confused because he'd been playing it so long the way he had to play it live. And we're listening to the album, and he takes out a pen and a paper. He's going to write a chart as he's listening, because he hasn't put on the record at that point in 20-something years. And as it played, his face just went through this whole smorgasbord of what the hell is that? Like, he was so confused. And when it ended, there was silence. He goes, well, that was educational. I guess I should have listened. And we were laughing, going, what, you didn't remember it that way? And he just sat there and he goes, oh, that's what the drugs will do for you, I guess. And it was just only time he ever referenced even mildly the fact that he had done drugs back in the day. He just doesn't talk about stuff. He just does his thing. He'll talk about music all day long. If you want to talk about what was it like when nothing. He's just a boom, nothing there. But that was the one time he referenced it, but it was pretty hilarious. Chuck Klosterman, who's a great writer. I really enjoy all of his books. And Chuck Klosterman, one of the great interviewers. If you read any of his pieces where he interviews a lot of people in rock and Hollywood, I just think he asks some of the best questions. Bear with me for a sec because I just want to share this. Chuck Klosterman, I think, wrote the ultimate thing about Led Zeppelin and why they're so important and why they matter. This is just a piece of it, and I'll try to get through this quickly. He wrote, this is 10 or 15 years ago I read this. Led Zeppelin sounds like who they are, but they also sound like who they are not. They sound like an English blues band. They sound like a warm-blooded brachiosaur. They sound like Hannibal's assault over the Alps. They sound sexy and sexist and sexless. They sound dark but stoned. They sound smart but dumb. They seem older than you, but just barely. That all somehow makes sense to me. He wrote, Led Zeppelin sounds like the way a cool guy acts. Or more specifically, Led Zeppelin sounds like a certain kind of cool guy. They sound like the kind of cool guy every man vaguely thinks they have the potential to be if just a few things about the world were somehow different. And the experience this creates is unique to Led Zeppelin because its manifestation is entirely sonic. There's a point in your life when you hear songs like The Ocean or Out on the Tiles and Kashmir, and you suddenly find yourself feeling like these songs are actively making you into the person you want to be. That's great. I love that.
If anyone had written that collection of words about probably any other band except for maybe Pink Floyd or the Beatles, I would have thought it was just a writer trying to show off. But
I know.
That makes perfect sense in
it
the
really
context
does.
of Led Zeppelin.
It really does. I'll finish. He goes, this means you have entered your Zeppelin phase, and it has as much to do with your own personal psychology as it does with the way John Paul Jones played the organ on Trampled Underfoot. It has to do with sociobiology and with Aleister Crowley and possibly with mastodons. And you will grow out of it, probably. But this is why Led Zeppelin is the most beloved rock band of all time, even though most people think the Beatles and the Stones are better. Those two bands are appreciated in myriad ways and for myriad reasons, and the criteria for doing so changes with every generation. But Led Zeppelin is only loved one way, and that will never evolve. They are the only thing that all young men share, and we will share it forever. Led Zeppelin is unkillable, even if John Bonham was not. That's great.
I want that read at my funeral. It doesn't apply to me in any way, but I just want it read at my funeral.
Well, we can check. Brian Zepp is unkillable. Well, he's dead now, but Brian Zepp is better than the Beatles and the Stones, and we can totally do that. I asked my wife to play the theme song from the movie Shaft at my funeral, and everyone say Steve instead of Shaft. So these things are all possible.
I went through my Zeppelin phase when I was living in Italy, and I think it's, to your point earlier, you said because they're so universal. My roommates there my Italian roommates were so obsessed, and I think that's why it hit me so hard. Mm-hmm. And I just listened to it all the time with them and felt like they're passionate about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel this way too, but you feel it way more than me.
Zeppelin and the Beatles, the two things they share that are most significant to me is both drummers swing so hard. They just have such a bounce and a swing to their playing. Bonzo and Ringo have that thing that that always resonates with me the deepest. But then also, and I've had this conversation with a million musicians, there's a lot of bands you can say this about, but these two stand at the top of the peak, which is, they're great. You understand how wonderful they are and amazing they are. And as you get better as a musician, and as you learn more about making records and how to record in the studio, and as you learn more about what it is to play live and be consistent and significant, and as you get better at your craft, those bands get better. The gap never really narrows. You don't feel like you're getting closer. The more you learn about music, the more you recognize they knew more about music, and they just seem to get it's just that thing of the more information you understand, the more insight you get, the somehow greater they get. And you start from a place where thinking, oh, they're the greatest band ever. And it's just you're scratching the surface, because I can still put on Zeppelin music and hear and feel things that I just, the more I've learned, the more they blow me away. So happy birthday, James Patrick Page. Very, very well done, my man. And by the way, not just with Zeppelin, of course, in the Yardbirds, and then on a million sessions and a lot of other things over the years. He's just an incredibly inventive and pretty peculiar fella who found his path, and thank God for us, he pursued it with reckless abandon.
Far out. A little heads up for the listeners. If you find yourself with some tube time tonight, Access TV just doing a big marathon on Jimmy Page for his 80th birthday today. In fact,
Nice.
they've got a great little shot of Jimmy up there and a quote. I may not believe in myself, but I believe in what I'm doing. Now that's pretty cool.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Billy Squier, Lonely as the Night. That was from the Don't Say No album, 1981. Billy Squier was on a tear, an absolute roll in 1984 after Don't Say No, and then the follow-up, Emotions in Motion. But then he put out an album called Signs of Life, and there was a single, the lead single, Rock Me Tonight. And it was doing well at radio. And it looked like, oh, my God, Billy Squier's about to go 3 for 3. And then the video hit MTV. Do you remember that, Zepp?
I do remember that, and I remember the brouhaha about it. But, of course, it was a very insensitive time, the 1980s.
It was.
And, he just got roasted for that. I look back, I probably participated in that to some degree, but looking back, it was really kind of silly.
It's real silly. He's just dancing around a room in a pastel lit bedroom, and he's grinding and writhing around on a satin sheet bed. It's very not rock, if you will. And like you said, people pretty insensitive at the time. It was credited with literally stalling his career. A video that aired on MTV for a few days and then was pulled because the response was so negative that Billy Squier's people were like, "Yo, hey, let's pull that video down." And the damage was done. I mean, honestly, the guy was as hot as it could get. And the power of MTV at that time cannot be overstated. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, in fact, you're right. MTV came on like a hurricane because suddenly, immediately, your video defined who you were as an artist to our generation coming along. I mean, we bought in hook, line, and sinker, and there were even some bands that were great from the 1970s that were having a hard time punching through that just because they didn't have the looks or the style. It was all about your video, man. Likewise, you could put out some pretty mediocre stuff, but if you had a pretty slick video, I mean, that thing would get played, and suddenly you were on Casey Kasem's Top 40 on Sunday mornings.
That's a fact.
Billy Squier just got, and it just, and then it gained momentum. It sort of turned into this cult thing, and it was just uncool to listen to Billy Squier for a period of time there. But yeah,
it's mind-boggling. I mean, listening to that song we just heard, there's all kinds of like nods. I'm not going to say ripping off because he's putting it into a new context, but there's so much Zeppelin in that first album, especially sonically, the way things were mic'd, the way it was recorded, and then just the little arrangement things, the syncopated hits on the drummer and the bass player doing. There's a lot of tipping of the cap to Led Zeppelin. Billy Squier had it all just right. And then that one video, and that's 40 years ago now. Now that it's 2024, we're talking about something that happened 40 years ago. So now get ready to have your mind blown by this. If Back to the Future took place today, then Marty would travel back in time to 1994. Because Back to the Future is 30 years back in time. Now, whenever that movie came out in 85, 1955 to 85 it felt like 1,000 years earlier.
Yeah.
But right now, if Back to the Future were rebooted right now, he would go back to 1994.
I would already have a kid by then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just weird. 1994 is too familiar for me. You're right. 1955, I was like, Mom, is this the way it really was? You guys dress like that? Do you wear an apron?
Can you imagine? I mean, I saw an Instagram post, and someone wrote, I used to be against a Back to the Future remake, but it needs to happen. When I show my kids the originals, they see no difference in 2015 between 1985 and 1955. Everything that predates them feels ancient. But I would 100% watch a movie that time travels back to 1995 and then into the future to 2055. We would all watch it. Absolutely. To go back to 1994, let's say right now, like I said, 30 years ago, I said this to my kids the other day. I mean, I just said, man, what would you do tomorrow if you woke up and smartphones no longer worked? And, of course, they both were like, bah. They start to say it would be fine, and then they really just think about the fact that there's how do you, we've had the conversation a million times. How do you keep up with people? How did you know where your friends were going to be? And my answer is always like, that was the cool part. You didn't. Trust me. It was good to just bump into people. It doesn't even happen anymore. But amazing to think that Back to the Future would be taking place in the final days of Kurt Cobain's life 30 years ago, if that were happening right now. It doesn't seem that long ago.
You know what blows me away is while you're sitting there, while we're talking about this, I go back to 1995. I'm like, what was the big story in 1995? What were we talking about? What was the landmark in 1995? I haven't gotten there because I'm just looking at January. But the Super Bowl 24 24, won by San Francisco. They beat, I forgot they were even in the Super Bowl.
They beat the Chargers.
You know this stuff. I don't know how you know this.
You know why I know it? And you're gonna, and anybody listening to the show is gonna think we talked about this ahead of time. We didn't. I watched that game at the Royal Albert Hall. I already mentioned it earlier. The night that I first met Jimmy Page, Robert Plant brought him to see the Black Crowes, and it was the night of that Super Bowl. And after the gig, we met Jimmy for the first time, and then we had the promoter had a big party room with a huge TV on the wall so we could watch the Super Bowl live in London. The kickoff was like at midnight, and we had a big party, and there was chili, and English people making chili is hilarious. That's a story for another day. But they had chili and barbecue sandwiches. They were just like, we'll just make American food for parties. And it was all kind of good. But we watched the Super Bowl. The Niners, Steve Young just destroyed the Chargers that night. And I was watching the game, eating chili with Jimmy Page. It was the first time I ever met him. I was like, this is cool. I just met my favorite guitar player of all time, and we're eating chili and watching football. Could be worse.
It's, I like that you say, well, it's such a landmark moment. Of course, those are big, huge moments. Why wouldn't you remember? But people still don't connect. Tony Lee left the KQ Morning Show in the late 90s. I was his replacement. We had actually been working together in the same building, but Tony split. And they're like, hey, Zepp, why don't you get in there for a couple of weeks till we find somebody qualified? And they're still looking, last I checked. But and I said, oh, yeah, what year was that, Tony? Where you left the KQ Morning Show and I joined. I forgot. And he goes, I don't know. And we sat there and talked for 5 minutes. We still can't figure out when he left the morning show and when I started on the morning show. So you've got that freaky memory.
Oh, it's nuts.
By the way, as you talk about that Super Bowl, I still have zero recollection of San Diego being in the Super Bowl. If you had asked, I would have bet $100 with you today on a handshake. Not San Diego. They'd never been to a Super Bowl. Who the hell was the quarterback?
I'm trying to think of that. I don't know.
Wasn't Dan Fouts.
I do know that it was a surprise for them to be there. I don't think they came in as the champions of the AFC West. If memory serves, they were either a wild card or maybe they were. You know who it was?
Yeah.
Humphrey. I'm so close. I'm not going to Google. I refuse to look it up. I will think of it when I stop thinking about it. But they got roasted. Steve Young just ran all over them. That was the first. Check this out. That was the first of 2 consecutive Super Bowls with Page and Plant outside of the country. Because a year later, we were in Rio de Janeiro with Page and Plant watching the Steelers Cowboys Super Bowl. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that one I remember. Unfortunately,
I know you do. That was sad.
Yeah.
We had 2 straight years out of the country on Super Bowl Sunday in the presence of the great men themselves. Jimmy Page turns 80 today. I doubt he's thinking back to his favorite Super Bowl of all time, but that doesn't mean I can't. So, hey, happy birthday, Jim. And as long as we're looking back at things that happened 80 years ago, let's look at some other things. A quick sports and music history lesson for you all. On this day in 2005, the Minnesota Vikings, 8-8, wild cards snuck into the playoffs and found themselves at Lambeau Field to play their arch rival Packers, and they beat them down 31-17. The clincher, a fourth quarter touchdown by Randy Moss with a little over 10 minutes to go. And what did Randy Moss then do? Oh, that's right. He pretended to pull down his pants and moon the Packer faithful. And Joe Buck on Fox Sports said, that's a disgusting act by Randy Moss, and it's unfortunate that we have to air that live. It's disgusting. He clutched his pearls, and a case of the vapors literally happened in the broadcast booth right then. Overtime.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss, and it's unfortunate that we had that on our air live. That is disgusting by Randy Moss. Let's get back to the play, Randy.
And I love Troy. Okay, take it easy, honey. Let's get back to the play. Of course, the fact of the matter is, Packers fans, after games out in the parking lot, when the opposing team's bus is pulling out of the stadium, they get mooned by Packers fans. It's been going on for, decades. Right. And so without that intel, who knows what Joe Buck was really thinking. He was horrified by that. The best part of that whole story is Randy was fined $10,000, and after that was asked by a journalist, did you write the check yet, Randy? And he said, no, when you're rich, you don't write checks. And the reporter goes, wait, if you don't write checks, how do you pay the fine? And Moss said 3 words that will live forever. Straight cash, homie. Oh, it just doesn't get any better. I'm sorry. It really doesn't.
The KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.